All right, welcome to Are You Not Entertained? Jared and Bo. We have director, producer, and does a lot of excellent things. He's been in he directed movies.
He has directed a movie, yeah.
Kevin Arbouet. I think I said that halfway right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Arbouet. It's very
Arbouet.
simple to do. No, Kevin's the man. Yeah. So
Hold on real quick behind the scenes because
Oh,
this is
God.
what we do. He says how simple it is. I was like, what's his last name? He said, I don't know how to say it. He said, you asked him when he comes on, so don't play me.
No, because I call him Kev.
Yeah, Kev.
I always call him Kevin. Kev. I just, on
Yeah.
the set, it was always just Kev.
You know what it is,
Yeah,
Jared?
let's
It's
call
that
him
thing
out.
like it's that thing like right before, like if you're not a singer, like right before you sing, you don't know what it's gonna sound like, so you got to hear it first. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be like you're not gonna know. You gotta like hear it.
Exactly. So, me and Kevin have a relationship because Kevin directed a film that I did, Grit on Grind, to the original film
I
last
saw
year.
it. I just
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Awesome experience. And seriously, I had one of the best times working with Kevin. I mean, I don't know if you've maybe humble brag. Kevin, I don't know if you're aware or not, but I did win an award for my role in Grit on Grind. The only award I've won, actually, was the movie that you directed. So thank you, my friend. I owe a lot to you.
And he takes that with him everywhere.
Yeah, it's on my keychain.
If we're at lunch, he puts it right out there.
I do.
Yeah.
Lets the waitress know. He's
As you
should be proud of it.
As you should. In certain states, it's considered legal tender, so you just kind of like show it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is, it's street cred anyway. So anyway, I wanted to bring and say, man, appreciate it. Amazing directing. Let's dive in. Let's see kind of where we're at, because you have some very interesting takes on where we're at in the business, what's going on. There's a lot of confusion. We last week did a Oscar nominated, episode where we kind of talked about the films that were nominated. It was appalling. It was abhorrent. And we're like so confused as how is this the actual Oscars? But that's just the tip of the iceberg, I think, to the whole problem that there is in the film industry. And we want to delve in that with you because you have a huge knowledge in that world. And I want to see exactly kind of what you're thinking, and we'll go from there. So where are we at? What's going on?
Honestly, I think there's two things happening. I think just kind of in a broader sense, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. This business, I would say since before COVID, really kind of starting with this action that the writer guilds had where you had to fire your agents. That was kind of the start of the shift in the business where mandates, and I'll just kind of say it generally, just in case I'm in your audience, depending on what industry you work on, but to understand it better, just think of like mandates and regulations, where things sound like a good idea, but they usually end up worse. And that's kind of what was happening in the business. And I would say just very recently, people are starting to realize, like, at least this is the way I think. I think that when you really kind of brass tacks, think about what the industry has been, we've really kind of betrayed the audience. And I mean that honestly, because the movie going experience and what it used to be has wholly changed. And I think the agenda or even the point of what you want, like your relationship with the audience, was a bit inverted, because it used to be entertain first. And then after you entertain, if you want, there's some sort of lesson. In fact, that's how television was. Television was set up around, at the end of the episode, you got the lesson. So it was like, it kind of worked. Like, I will entertain you and you'll get a lesson. And then it has shifted to, here's a lesson and maybe you'll be entertained. And
Gosh, that's so true.
It's accurate, right?
Gosh, that's so true.
Yeah. And it's this total inversion of the relationship, because we say, like, look, especially if you're Bo's a family guy. I'm a family guy. Jared, I don't know if you're a family as well, but it's like,
all my family died last month. But
No, I thought it was 2 days ago on the airplane when it hit the helicopter. That's actually...
we have to edit that out.
Oh, wow.
We'll edit that out. Sorry.
That's not insensitive. How is that insensitive? That happened. His family died.
Producer Roy.
He's fine with it, Kevin.
No, he's
sorry.
not. No, he's not.
Let's keep going. We're not here
No,
to
but
some people get offended. It's okay. You have the okay to be offended.
Without the camera on, I'm not offended.
It's okay. Why are you turning red? All right, go ahead.
No, honestly, I mean, when you're dead, you really can't be offended. So I mean, there's no offense there.
Yes, still alive. Yeah. No, I mean,
watch our podcast and we get bad reviews from.
I'm a family man. I have 3 kids. I love being a dad. It's the best. Yeah.
So when historically, when you go to the movies, it's a thing. You know, you have to bring your kids. It's going to be expensive. You know, you add up all the tickets, you add up concession, whatever. I mean, for a lot of people, it's a 3-figure night. You know, for a family, it could be like easily $100. And for that $100, it used to be like, okay, well, we're making a trade. I am now going to go to see this movie that, you know, how many millions you spent on it, but like, I know that you're going to take care of me. Like, and we had a decade, I would say in the 90s, which was kind of like the peak of that experience, where it was like the Jurassic Parks, the Speeds, like the whole family could see these movies, the whole family. And it got to a point where I was nervous showing my kids a Disney movie.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable. And the reason why I'm more hopeful is because people tend to think like, you know, hey, you know, this used to be great, but it's gone now. Oh, well. And I think that people are starting to realize, like, you know, not oh, well. If you want to change something, you can change it. If you want to bring back some level of sanity, you can bring it back. If you want to bring back some level of that family experience, you can bring it back. And that way we used to muse, like, man, I miss the 90s. I think people are starting to realize, like, you know, we can just bring it back. We can bring back that. It doesn't take much to bring it back. And that's why I'm hopeful of the future.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Because I remember, I've been on a morning show for 17 years. And I remember, I'm not exactly sure when, maybe 10 years ago, and my co-hosts say it now drives them crazy, but they're aware of it. Like you said, the inversion, but I'm not as eloquent as you. I was just saying there's an agenda in all these movies. Like, I can't go, like you said, to a Disney movie without something being shoved in your face. And then you see that there's an agenda for all sorts of things. And they lead with it. They're leading with the agenda, like you said. That's perfectly stated. And so now I think they said I've ruined TV and movies for them because now they're looking for the agenda and everything. And it's rare when you find a show or a movie that doesn't. But when you do, you glom onto it. Like, comes to mind right now, like Cobra Kai, to me, just fun. Like, there's no agenda there. They're super fans of the Karate Kid, and they brought everyone back, and they made it a fun, you know, teenage friendly, you know, maybe young kids buy out some of the stuff, but I love it.
But even a better example of that,
this won't be better. But
even Taylor Sheridan, everything he does is just an amazing story. And then if there's something in there that's supposed to help someone or guide someone or whatever, it's there, but it's just to be entertained. And it's like you said, that not only got lost, but then got demonized if you point it out. It's like, you know, you have the problem for not being okay with this. And then after years and years and years, I feel like, and I'm sure we'll address this, of networks and studios losing money, like insurmountable amounts, maybe there's some shifting, like, what are we doing? Like, you can't keep the sustainability, because at some point that debt's going to come due, and no one's seeing your movies because they don't be preached to. They just want to be entertained, but they're not going to watch that. They're going to watch something that's going to entertain them. I mean, there's a great opportunity there for a lot of creative, you know, directors, producers to come up with new stuff, like Taylor Sheridan. Much better example than what he gets.
It's actually bad, because Sheridan does have agendas. It is very clear in all of them.
Nope.
Yes, he does.
No.
Yes, he does. No. He's smoother about it. Yes, he does.
Oh my God.
Landman's all about how we have to use oil. It's not complaining about it.
Well,
it's not about all this green
how's
stuff.
that
He's making fun of windmills. There's a whole episode making fun of the windmills.
I agree to disagree. I
love you.
Disagree.
But he's a little slicker about it. Like, he'll have a character go on a rant, like Billy Bob Thornton, about how, hey, the shoes you're wearing, your car, the plastic, this. We have to have it. If you don't want to have it, it's going to take 100 years to find something to replace it. If we start today, and it still won't be there.
I mean, he's talking about reality.
Well, Jared, I'll say this. I see your point, and I do kind of like half agree with you, because I think everyone has some sort of agenda, and I do think Sheridan has agenda, but agenda isn't necessarily a pejorative, you know. And here's a great example of a director who had, I mean, an unabashed agenda, but I find it positive. Michael Bay, especially throughout his career in the 90s, his agenda was, I'm going to highlight and show American heroes. When they were police and the military, they were heroes. He gave, and this is kind of like a cardinal sin in filmmaking, but he did it anyway, like Transformers 3, you know, quality aside of the entire movie or whatever, there's just a part in that movie where it is like the rousing music and the score, and they're like, and the military gets together, we're going to do this thing. And he gave a speech to a day player who was like, listen, I can't force, like, I'm here for my country and I will do whatever. And it was so rousing, and he didn't give it to the star. He didn't give it to the supporting. He gave it to the day player military guy because it's important to him to show that the American military can be heroes. And I think with Taylor Sheridan, what he's doing is he's telling a story about the American family. He's telling a story about the struggles that you kind of get into as a family in the family business, why it's important. You deal with, like, the sins of the father, all that stuff, but it's recognizable to all of us. Like, we all get it. There's a lot of movies and shows like, I don't get this. What is a neurodivergent psychic? It's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't get it. So,
I like this guy.
I told you, Kevin's a man. Kevin's a man.
And Kevin, I agree. All I want you to do is settle something for us real quick.
Yeah.
Whose example was better of no agenda? Cobra Kai or Taylor Sheridan?
It always turns in this, Kevin. You don't have to answer because he always has.
No, you can. It's a free country. I have an agenda. My agenda is for him to say who. All right. I'll accept your answer. I know you're friends with him, but
we're more than friends. Kevin, you don't feel like answer because that's awkward impression. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's
go on here, Kevin. Which one's better?
I would go with mine.
There you go. Boom. Good answer, Kevin. See, Kevin's
in politics.
Top line professional. No,
I did work in politics, Jared. Believe it or not, I actually did work in politics.
Yeah,
I can see it. You're very diplomatic.
Yeah,
it's a good skill.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, working in politics was the thing that helped me get back to where I am now. Because not to get too specific, I started in 2007. I did a video that was very, very big and kind of put Obama on the map, and that's kind of a longer story. But like working with candidates and working with both Democrats and Republicans, I will tell you, it was, I don't know if I should even tell them. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to tell the story. I'll tell.
Please do. I love it.
It is September 2023, and I find myself in Brentwood at RFK's house. And at that point in time, RFK was still a Democrat, and there were still Democrat strategists there. But it was definitely like, hey, you're welcome if you're independent, you're welcome if Republican, everyone talking. And it was also at that event, and the way people would communicate, it was clear that there is no like the theater that you see between Democrats and Republicans fighting versus what happens. But I'm talking about the establishment, what happens, behind the closed door. It's theater. They all get along. They're all friends. It's all like, I'm going to say this about you on Monday, just give you a heads up. It's like, cool, I'll, you know what I mean? Like, it's all theater. But after my night there, the next day, and I'm pretty, you can tell maybe it's only been 15 minutes, but I'm pretty even keeled. The next day, I text my friends this comment: there is no way Biden will be the nominee. Now, I am objective enough and kind of like, I have I'm calibrated socially. No, that's going to sound like conspiracy theory insanity, but it was obvious that there was no universe that Biden was going to be the nominee. And that's when I started to really like question so much of what I thought and what I believed. And it really kind of like helped me wake up to the reality of the world, So I say all that. I can't believe I told that story because it is kind of like wild, and I haven't even given you the reasons why, because there are, maybe off camera, there are very specific reasons why I knew for sure Biden was not going to be the nominee. I kind of forget what even like kind of like brought it up, but I don't know. I think it's just part of even like the way I look at filmmaking is different because of that.
Yeah, you said politics actually helped you get back in, like it helped you with filmmaking.
Yes,
like the way you being in that system or seeing the system. It sounded like you were going to share how that benefited you in the movie industry.
Yeah, it did. So thank you for that, Jared. So essentially, what it did was it made me really kind of like understand objectivity, like objective truths. You know what I mean? Like there's and objectively speaking, we are a nation, and I think all nations really, I mean, if you look historically and actually, but we are a nation that thrives under the guise of the nuclear family. It doesn't matter what the ailment is, what the issues are, what it all goes down to the nuclear family. It is that thing that when you go, why is it like this? And you look at that, the degradation of the nuclear family, like the answer's right there. And then I will say, you throw religion into the nuclear family, well, now it's like jet fuel, and you will get the best outcomes of all time. And then the reason why it worked for me, I said objectively, filmmaking has strayed so far from what it could be. I realized that there's a hole to be filled. Like, I realized, like, actually, this is an opportunity. Like, the fact that certain things are not being made, there's a huge opportunity to get back, I would say, an audience that's kind of been disenchanted by the business. So that was kind of the point.
An underserviced client basis. Yeah.
Totally.
And I think that's going back to what I was saying with Taylor Sheridan. He's hit that, and he's hit that vein of gold like I've never seen before, because there is so many disenfranchised folks who, almost like you said, that you can't even turn on the television without being preached to. Well, like, sometimes you just want to relax. You know, that's why people watch soap operas. They just want to veg out and relax. They don't want to be preached to. They don't want to be, manipulated. They don't want to be convinced that they're doing something wrong in their life, or like they got to reassess their morals. It's like, no, sometimes just entertain me. That's it. That's the job.
Do you find in the industry, and Bo, you're in it, of course, and Kevin, that sometimes it's almost like a slam, or when they say, "Oh, well, they're making popcorn movies." Oh, you mean movies that people like to go see with their family and make money? Like, I understand if people want to be, if they want to be artsy, if that's an art and they want to, and they have a different way and they want no one to watch it, that's fine. That's their choice. That's what people, but I just know, I've heard in a lot of interviews, they're like, well, I did a couple popcorn movies. Like, oh yeah, I actually saw those.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are the ones that, so what is that? Is that just the highbrow nature of some people take themselves too seriously? I mean, is it pervasive, or is it, because most movies that come out in theaters are popcorn movies because they want to make money?
Right.
Yeah, it's really stupid. It's actually quite ignorant, and like that's another thing that I kind of realize a lot of people don't understand business in general. But I will tell you, the Dunes of the world are what pay for those small movies.
That's
you
right.
can't do those small movies without the big popcorn movies.
That's the only movie of the Oscar-nominated movies that I saw. Like, I don't think you saw any of them.
I saw Wicked.
You saw Wicked. I saw Dune. That's it.
I saw that piece on Instagram with you guys talking about it, and that was like the only movie you were like, oh yeah, I saw Dune. And there was something else that you had saw that you dug, and I was like, oh, you like Wicked. That was shocked me. I was like, oh, you like Wicked.
I know. I'm still shocked by that. I'm still like very alarmed.
So does like $800 million worth of other people.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
I love to play. My daughter does musical theater.
Yep.
And that's not why I liked it. I think I would like to.
I had no idea you were gay. That's cool though.
Yay! He finally says it. Well, this is the party that we're announcing this. For sure.
I need to do
the shirt.
The producer.
The shirt. Even producer Roy has pointed out the shirt.
I'm just comfortable in my lack of masculinity.
I'm just saying he's not married. So, and there's some key indicators pointing at
I have a hot girlfriend, but it's my beard. Anyway, you think your beard's big? She's 5'8". No, but
see, Kevin, I know you're like me, because I know we've had a conversation on set on film. We like those 90s, early 2000s action-packed blockbuster American hero, the Gladiators, the 300, Braveheart, these movies that are larger than life, that depict strong moral characters making the ultimate sacrifice for something that is greater than themselves. So rarely is that seen in any movie today. My biggest complaint about Gladiator 2, we did a podcast on, was that exactly. The hero's journey has to die when the hero dies. That is the hero's journey. Right. The arc in the hero's journey is at the end he dies. If he carries over, the hero journey is neutered in a way. It just doesn't have near the impact. And even like in a massive Ridley Scott Gladiator 2, you would think it'd be just the biggest, best thing ever. They fell short in that. And it just like systematically, mentally, I don't know what the agenda is in that. Like, there's just this whole, mischaracterization of what the hero's journey is even. And that's the things that we grew up on.
Well, yes, you've 100%. And I would say the reason for that is, as to your point, we had movies where the hero had objective morality. But what we have now is subjective morality. And that's a problem, because the importance of morals are that it will be inevitably tested. That's why morals are so important. If it was very easy and you can, if you could just hold morals and it's like no confrontation, like you will always be confronted when you have morals.
Yeah.
And within that confrontation with morals, there are going to be people who go, I don't know if that's right. I think I disagree with you. And that's why within morals, it's like, yes, this is going to be difficult. This is the time to hold it. And what we have today with subjective morality, that falls apart so quickly.
Yeah.
Because it sounds nice to say, oh, whatever you do won't hurt me. But we also live in a world where my neighbor's lawn will hurt me. You know what I mean? So no one believes that. No one believes that. And it's not true. So if you don't have inspirational characters that are objectively moral, then what are you rooting for?
Right.
Rather than an agenda. That's what we have.
Yeah. What would be some examples for you of maybe characters in TV or movie that you prefer, that you love, that have exactly what you're describing? What would be some examples of that?
Well, I mean, I'll go back. First, I mean, I'll talk about the sitcom, right? So when you had shows like Family Ties, when you had shows like The Cosby Show, it was this nuclear family. Somebody within the family would inevitably make a mistake, including the parents, because it wasn't always like the kids are, fucking up. It was like
Right.
including the parents. And within that story, even within the 22 minutes of content, you got what you needed. You got the funny entertainment. You got the setup to, I know you mean, because that's the point within these sitcoms. These characters always mean well. They mean well, but then they do something else that is immoral. And then the lesson is like, I understand why you did that, but this is why you can't, and this is why it's moral. So that's what we got. So I loved, those strong characters. I love, Growing Pains, same thing. All of these characters had a great lesson to them, and we had the same thing with movies. You know what I mean? Even the movies that supposedly would stress what we would consider social norms. So let's take a movie like Lethal Weapon. So you had the Murtaugh character, right? Which really was like your prototypical American man, family, law enforcement, house, 3 kids. I mean, like, this is it. And then with the introduction of the Mel Gibson character, it's like, oh, now we have something subversive.
A wild card, yeah.
A wild card. But at the end of the movie, what is the lesson? The Riggs character realizes actually Murtaugh's way is the way. Because the way that Riggs was going led to destruction, and the way that Murtaugh was going led to salvation. So even in those movies, you got the lesson.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I was going to say, I mean, even with that, I'm always a very hopeful individual. I'm always trying to look at, like, how can things turn around? How can things become better? And that's the reason our conversations, through social media, texting, everything for the last, year and a half have always been like, okay, we are very, very like-minded in a lot of different things. So I guess I have my own perception of how things turn around. How do we make movies great again, kind of thing? What would you say would be a way that this industry could go and should go in order to, bring back the allure of what it used to be in film, television, and entertain people?
I would say that the first thing is we have to kind of like bring back that. I think it just comes in the premise of what this story is. And I think that kind of like focusing on the characters of things changes quite a bit. Because we had like, even okay, this is the funny thing. This is how times have changed. Even when Jared talks about like the popcorn movie phenomenon, I think most people think of like Marvel movies, whatever. But also, especially, and this is how far back it goes, people even consider that for like your prototypical thriller. Like Fatal Attraction was considered like a popcorn movie.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like, that is fine as long as, again, it's like within the process, you are highlighting the characters. And that's, I mean, you take a movie like Fatal Attraction, what's like really interesting about it actually is that it was one of the first movies where both the antagonist and protagonist were deeply, deeply flawed individuals. Okay, like it's I am so mesmerized with that movie because like you would think that movie would be so offensive to women in the sense of like what this main character Michael Douglas is doing is he's married to an amazing woman. he's got this kid, is great, and he meets this other chick at work and has this affair. But even after all of that, at the end of the movie, everyone, including the women, cheer when Glenn Close gets killed. Isn't that amazing? I just find that amazing. So I just think that there, I'll say for me, right? We talked about agendas. So I will tell you what I'm doing. And this is something, some press will come out next week. The press announcement is dropping. So
here first, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive.
Actually, yes. Believe it or not.
We're gonna clip this portion and go put it everywhere. All right, go ahead, buddy.
Get the trumpets right. Did you bring the trumpets? Bring the trumpets. Okay, go ahead.
All right, Kev, lay it on us, baby.
I'm currently writing a comic book movie with my writing partner, Terry Rossio, who Bo has met, who was Terry is a legend.
You've seen his work, and you may not even know it. Like I'm telling you.
Terry Rossio, you not only seen his work, everyone in the world has seen at least one of his movies. Like his movies shape culture. And I'll very quickly tell you the movies he's done.
Yeah.
Aladdin from the 90s, all the Shreks,
Never
all the Pirates of the Caribbean, Mask of Zorro, National Treasure. I mean, all the big movies. So him and I are writing this.
Correct.
We're writing this action movie together. And the thing is, because he's got 40 plus years of experience, and I'm kind of a very specific writer, so we make it work. But we both realize that within this action movie, there's been so many ridiculous tropes. We know all the things to avoid. So the main character in this movie is an action starring a woman, actually DeWanda Wise. So that's let the cat out of the bag, Yeah. And Terry and I, we knew, even though it's a comic book, we knew it's one thing that we're not going to do. We are not going to have our main character be the most capable person on the planet. Mm-hmm. And I realized, especially when we talk about a Black female character, they have never, ever, there is no movie, there is no character where it was kind of like a one-to-one comparison to Indiana Jones, the imperfect action star. The things where it doesn't work out. He's not the toughest guy. He's got to think on his feet. He messes up a lot. We had it with Jackie Chan as well. We don't have that. So it was so instead of this 110-pound girl walking in a room and there's 6 guys just kicking all their asses, whatever, and you just kind of sit there and go, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
We're doing it a little bit different. So it's I see how that works out. And I think there's going to be a lot more of that where you can a lot of fun, but maintain believability, because we have lost that in action film right now. There is no, I love Ana de Armas. I think she's one of I think the fact that she's so gorgeous and that good of an actress is shocking to me. You know what I mean? It's you got everything, and she's funny and whatever. When I see Ballerina, I don't buy it for a second. Not a second. There's no universe. I don't believe it. So you got to do something different to entertain the audience, to go, I still value the female. Here's a funny thing is that when we try to manipulate how things work and just push it on people, it actually was worse than what we had, because what I'm talking about, we had it with Ripley. Ripley's great. Ripley's tough, but again, Ripley's not coming in beating up 5 guys at once. She just happened to be really smart, really capable. But more than anything, the reason why Ripley works and why you can have a female action star, it's about the bravery. The bravery of it all. Ripley was very brave. That's the whole thing. So if you want to impress an audience, you'd be like, yeah! You don't have to show a 110-pound person beating up a 3. That's ridiculous. But you can highlight their bravery. And that's when you're you got to cheer, because you know for a fact this girl can't beat a guy up that looks like Jared. That's fucking ridiculous. But if she's going to go for it anyway to her danger, then you can cheer. Then you can cheer, and then you can root for that person. And that, I think, is what is the future of cinema.
And do you have a title, or can you share that now?
Yes, it's called, so it's the same as the comic book. It's called Killer Bee.
Killer Bees.
Bee.
Or Killer Bee. Killer Bee.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we know where it's going to be released, or I don't know how much
that's where I can't say more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've told us more than you probably should have, and we appreciate it. What do you think about characters? Sorry, Bo. What do you think about characters like Walter White?
Love.
Where's that? Where he does seem to try to do. He starts off trying to do something good. He's in a tight situation, and then what is it, anti-hero type? I mean, he's like where then, but then he starts getting more and more corrupt. But then there's like a little range,
Selective humanity.
Humanity's
Yeah.
there, still there.
Yeah.
So you're still rooting for him. But you get to the point, and it's always, I think maybe started with Sopranos, maybe well before then, where you're actually rooting for somebody who's breaking the law, and you start getting mad at the good guys. Like, how dare the cops pull him over? Or, when, I forget his name, Norris, who was a DEA agent.
The brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Dean.
Dean, yeah. And, like, you're like, when he got killed, spoiler alert, I was like, yeah, that's what he deserved.
I kind of was the same way.
Explain that. Explain how you feel about that.
It's genius. And I will tell you, that show would never have been made today. That was the genius of Vince Gilligan, coming from the 90s and the X-Files, who truly understood complicated characters and complicated realities of life, as you put it. Because Darren, that's exactly right. Vince Gilligan understood that he's going to create a crime thriller in which you like this main character, what a sad sack. You're gonna see him, kind of be disrespected. You're gonna see him mess up here and there. But then, yes, inevitably he becomes this drug lord. And what's really great, like you said, you start getting mad at the cops. You get mad at Skylar, his wife, who's got a kid. How could you be mad at the wife who's like, you're gonna ruin our lives? You're a drug dealer. But the characterizations were so good. You're just like, I'm with it. We had that also in '83 by the movie behind Bo's head called Scarface, because it is even in a better example, and what Oliver Stone did and Brian De Palma, is that you get that at the halfway mark. Not even at the halfway mark. You both love and hate Tony Montana by the end of the first act. By the end of the first act, you're like, this guy's kind of a piece of shit. The moment it's like, okay, I'm going to work for Robert Loggia, and he starts hitting on Michelle Pfeiffer, you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And it was the beauty of adding all those things to the character, because you could have just told the story of like the rise of fame, because we have movies like that where it's like Blow is that movie. Blow is the movie where the Johnny Depp character is a great guy, you just want him to just do his thing and whatever, but it's like, no, with Scarface, he's a piece of shit, but I'm gonna see if you still root for him. And
we need it right here. I mean, Pulp Fiction, these two guys,
exactly.
Godfather, they're all bad guys, but man, they got the movie posted up and everyone roots for them. I mean,
but they do show like their family dynamic for the most part at some point.
Well, not these guys,
but like with Godfather or any mafia movie, central to it is family.
You have to have your reason why.
Yeah,
why?
That's the reason why. And actually, a lot of these movies, because remember, these movies are being made. You got 83, you got 72 or 70. These movies are made understanding like people are going to rewatch them. Remember, these movies used to play in theaters for months and months and months and months. So inevitably, people would see it multiple times. Yeah. And the beauty of setting up stories like that is that, because again, so smart, they know that people are going to cheer when they watch Scarface the first time. Like, yeah, I got him, Tony. By the second or third time you watch it, that's when you go, oh, he's a piece of shit. He is awful. He has ruined his family. He's killed his sister. He's killed, what I mean? He's ruined everyone's lives. And that's the point. It's like some movies, like you do want to like on the rewatch, you're like, oh, I get it. Even Dune 2 is a movie. When I saw Dune 2, and I'll be very, very honest. I'm talking about objectivity. So I'm a writer-director, right? When it comes to writing, if it's like, hey, we like your idea, but we want to hire whomever, some other big A-list writer to write it, would you be okay with it? I'm like, no, because I feel very comfortable putting my writing up with the biggest A-list stars. Directing, not so much. So you watch Dune 2, and I watched Dune 2, and I go, you could give me 1,000 years, and I never would be able to do what Denis Villeneuve just did. That's a next level talent. And then with that, watching it, I watched it again. I'm like, I didn't see half of the stuff the first time. I didn't even know, like, it's meant to be rewatched over and over and over. And I think now, because it's been some time, people are starting to realize, I don't think Timothée Chalamet's character is a hero. I think something's brewing, but you're not going to get that on the first watch. You're just not.
Yep.
That's the brilliance of some of these directors and writers.
What would be some of the directors that you look up to and writers that you look up to, since those are your two, passions?
I mean, some if it's like living and dead. I mean, like if you go back,
any all time, yeah.
I love. So I'll go old school first. The two people that made such an impression for me, that was Mike Nichols and Albert Brooks. Yeah. I thought these two, because anyone can be funny, right? Like you laugh, it's funny. But what Albert Brooks and Mike Nichols did was setting up just a different type of premise. You don't even realize where they're going. I mean, Albert Brooks especially. I mean, he kind of like changed comedy really forever. I mean, just way ahead of his time. And the comedy writing in that was so great. And I would say between those two specifically, because he also dealt in drama. And then I started to understand that, even in the saddest movie, you have to have moments of levity. I always say, like, the biggest trick that Martin Scorsese pulls is that he's actually doing comedies. Like, Goodfellas is a fucking comedy. Every scene is played for laughs. It's a comedy. More recently, I mean, Tarantino, again, you cannot deny, especially after all these movies, and you're like, what more does this guy need to prove? I mean, genius. Yeah. I like Nicole Holofcener, more lesser known, but I think her movies are generally pretty perfect. I mean, one of the Friends with Money. So Jennifer Aniston, Frances McDormand, I think Dermot Mulroney. Just great, just solid, great. In fact, one of James Gandolfini, speaking of Sopranos, one of his last movies was, I think, called Enough Said. I think that's the title, and it was Julie Louis-Dreyfus and James Gandolfini. Perfect movie. I love Nicole Holofcener. And then Michael Bay, man. Michael Bay, in fact. So, I'm writing this thing, and then I have a couple of things that I'm setting that I will be directing, right? Yeah. And when I tell you specifically that I am stealing unabashedly, stealing the aesthetic of Michael Bay, especially like the Bad Boys 2 Transformers era, like the look of it, that's what you're going to see. Because I think that's the other part. And like, I know sometimes I will give every studio head a heart attack, but the next film I direct will be on film. Yeah. Not because I'm trying to be precious or whatever, or I'm not trying to be a big fat black girl. No, I'm not trying to be precious. I identify as precious. No, there are certain things in life where your eyes do not lie to you. The best CG in the world, you can kind of see, you kind of know, whatever. And film and digital, no matter how great digital, whatever, it just looks different. It just does. It feels different. The shadows are different. So when you watch the color, like after this interview, put on 2007 Transformers and like look at the coloring and the lighting and you go, oh my God, this is a movie. You can do that with Lethal Weapon. So
it's even in the CGI too, because like I've seen comparisons of CGI from like the early 2000s to the CGI now that Disney's using. It's laughable. It's like there was a huge downgrade from.
It's worse.
It's way worse. Yeah, it's way worse. Let's say that you're directing, okay, and I'm your actor. What movie are you going to direct and write for me character-wise? Go. Who am I?
You just mean in general? You just want a dog?
Just in general.
Well,
and you're going through real life too, but just hypothetically speaking, just for now, exercise-wise.
After I'm done writing this action movie with Terry, I am going to be writing a buddy action cop movie.
Hey,
perfect.
Action.
I've never acted before, but perfect.
Hey, don't be trying to get on my bandwagon, Jared.
And the great thing about this movie is that, much like the Lethal Weapons and the Die Hards and all this movie, it's a cast of 1,000. Meaning, a lot of times, because really, by the way, this has to be said. 60s, 70s, whatever, you still had filmmakers in the 60s and 70s and 80s that were part of not only the studio system, some even vaudeville. It was a different playing field. The level of technical knowledge, like every director before digital had to be technically proficient in a way that most directors are not nowadays. Sure. Yeah. And just very quickly to your point, Bo, that's why a lot of things looks like even the CG is because the directors don't necessarily know how to shoot something to help the visual effects.
Yeah.
So just generally speaking, the two biggest issues that kind of affects the quality of CG is going to be the physics of the thing and the lighting of the thing. So unfortunately, a lot of VFX artists are like, no, that you have directors shooting something and not thinking about what's going to happen in the CG. And then the visual artist has to now create light sources, which conflict with the actual light sources that you shot on set, while creating new physics because you didn't shoot anything practically to help the CG. And then people will go, that shit looks terrible, the bad CG. And it's like, no, that director fucked the CG artist. That director fucked him up. I mean, Marvel's got all the money in the world, but when you watch a movie like Eternals, it looks that way because the person who was directing it had no idea how to marry the two. Versus if you watch Winter Soldier and you're like, why does everything look amazing? Why is this the tightest? Because the Russo brothers understood on a fundamental level the action directing that was necessary practically to marry it with the CG. But getting back to, I want to do an action buddy cop movie, and I have kind of like a very simple storyline that's going to be very easy to follow. But my agenda is I am showing the cops as heroes. That's it.
Like End of Watch. That was a great cop movie. That was
I think it's great. Movie. I think what we need to get back to, you know what my biggest hope is for the next couple of years is that we all get back to the way we identify our moral Americans, meaning that we're all in this together. So even though someone it seems bizarre to me that if someone has the same color of my skin but is a piece of shit, I don't go, well, I identify with that guy because we just happen to have the same melanin content. That seems like the dumbest thing I've ever heard versus the content of your character. So when we start getting back to movies where it's like, yeah, man, but yes, of course you have bad cops or whatever. Cops are fucking heroes. And as citizens, you know what I mean? We have to get back to that because we need people to root for. We can't, I'll tell you, we cannot exist. It is not sustainable to think that every single person on this planet is oppressing you. That is not sustainable for a society or a person. And since culture is so intertwined to what, politically and religiously, we need to get back with movies where people, one, are not disgusting, where it's not just over the top sexuality, enough of that, which by the way, there's not much sex in movies nowadays because we've gotten so gross. It's like it's just everywhere. You know what I mean? So let's bring that back, right? And let's bring back how great a family is. So the movie I did, Gridiron Grind with Bo, one of the things that was very important to me, main character, mother and a father. Yeah. Sounds stupid, but most of the movies, believe it or not, I will blow your mind when I'm talking to executives, especially if it's a black. Can I just be a single mom? I've gotten that question, not even a question, that directive, multiple times.
Wow.
Multiple.
Wow. Well, they were very, very paramount in our film, and that was very evident, because that is the centrifuge of strength, I think, with people and upbringing. I mean, there's hundreds, thousands of years of documentation proving this. So I mean, I think that, like you said, get back to that, I think would be hugely impactful for the industry and what we're trying to do, move forward.
And the father from the Gridiron Grind, the other thing that was very important to me, I was like, okay, so now I had the family, but my other big directive was, I am not having the father be a bumbling idiot.
Right.
I want to be smart and capable. He's not going to be this fucking idiot.
Yeah. Where the mom's the quick one and the dad's just like a bumbling fool. Every sitcom, it's like, man, goodness, these tropes are getting old and, possibly causing damage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, back in the 80s, the dad used to look like Bo, and now in the 2000s, the dads look like Jared. I mean, this is totally...
So what you're saying now is that the dads now look better. You don't need, it's okay.
They're pinker.
Kevin's my boy. Don't be going at Kevin.
I'm not going at Kevin.
Oh, okay.
I'm agreeing with him.
Okay.
Dads now look better
than
they did. They look more real. Is what you're saying. That's the way I have my own narrative in my own head, and that's what
Everyone does.
I'm going to take what you said and make
Thank
it
you.
positive for me.
You
Yeah,
look very real.
I look very real.
I look very.
By the
authentic.
way, neither one of you have it. No one is. Neither does producer Roy. The dad bod is in.
Says the dad.
No. The majority, because on our morning show we talk about a lot about relationships. Every study that comes in, it shocks me. It's like 65% of women prefer the dad bod, and I'm like, how awesome are women?
That's not true.
Jared, can I just that
Yeah.
stat and what that means, what actually is happening? The problem with that, and actually what Jared is saying is actually technically true. The problem is that when women think of dad bod, they think of Chris Pratt, a little out of shape. That's what they think of, like a dad bod. When they think of a dad bod, they don't realize like that guy works out all the fucking time and just has a bad diet. That's what they think a dad bod is, not like the dad bod.
But women are more forgiving because we're more visual as men typically.
Yes.
I mean, how many times do you see a guy like me out with somebody very attractive?
Oh, his girlfriend's way harder than he is. Like his girlfriend's way.
That's the way it should be.
But here's the thing. Here's a stat. Okay, this is like provable that women are happier when they are the better looking one in a relationship. Like women are uncomfortable if their male is a higher profile or more attractive than they are. It makes them very unstable. But a very hot girl will date way under 5-6 points under.
I think I'd be
7, maybe 8 points under.
No, she's very attractive.
She is, and I love it. But like that's a stat too. So it's like don't lean too much into that. The girls are saying, "I want my guy to be uglier than me." That's what they're saying.
Well, and also, but let's give women credit though. They if on a dating profile, the studies will show too. They're reading everything about you. We're like hot, ugly, hot, ugly, hot. Like
Kinda. I will say that kind of like mirrors actually just the state of dating anyway, where just women have a ton of options and guys are lucky to get what they get. But the thing is, though, by the way, about I jest about the father of back in the day, but the reason why, just kind of back to why the prototypical father of a beau, why it was so important, is that it gelled with reality, and the reality was this: in times of trouble, you look to your dad. This idea that your first thought is to outsource that responsibility to someone else, a police officer, whatever, is kind of crazy. Like the way certain things are, both government, law enforcement, they're supposed to be supplemental. It's not supposed to be the end all be all, right? And when we kind of knew that in general, no one was come to save us except our parents, which is the way it's supposed to work. Quickly, not to preach, but again, when you get back to like the family, that solves the issue of money. That solves homelessness, because the way it's supposed to, the way society was set up, and the reason why people say, go forth and be fruitful and multiply, is that when you have a family of 4 or 5 or 6, you have a series and a set of parachutes and safety nets and all the stuff, which is what's supposed to be, because you have one brother who's struggling. We have 2 other siblings that can help out, and then it switches and here, maybe you can live there. We weren't meant, you can't propagate a society like maybe I'll have 1 kid or no kids. It makes no sense. But you don't think about how important that family is because it will always start with the father. Because I'll just say I'm very, and Bo knows this, I'm very old-fashioned and I'm very traditional, and I'm a pretty stoic guy. But if you want to get me, if you want to get little tears, it is thinking about how my girls tell me, and my son who's 25 was like, "You're my hero." That's what my kids tell me. That to me, and Bo, I know your son. How old is your son?
Oh, well, no, I have 2 girls. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. Yeah.
So I will. Bo, I will tell you, when your daughters get to that age and they realize that you are the ideal of men in general, not even, and this is the point, not necessarily romantically, not even necessarily friendship-wise, but the ideal of what a man should be, where he is consistent, where he is disciplined, and most importantly, moral. It gives the women in your life a safety that they usually don't feel. And my girls know, and my son knows as well, that wherever I am or what is going on, they know that if I call daddy, all hell's about to break loose.
Yeah.
I don't think you know this, Bo, but this past Christmas was kind of awful. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital with my oldest daughter. She had 2 surgeries. It was brutal. I was sleeping in there every single day from like the 7th. We spent Christmas in the hospital from the 7th to the 27th. So it was like 3 weeks in the hospital. Awful. But my daughter, who's 13, it brought us closer because the amount of advocacy you have to do your kids in your hospital setting. You know what I mean? Like you have and I'm lucky enough where on the East Coast, my family is all in the medical field. So there's a lot of things I'm just generally aware of. And my daughter would say, it's like, you're tough, but kind. Because I would see things that were like, no, we're not doing that. Nope, we're not doing this. No. Oh, you want to remove the tape now? Okay, well, get some removers. There's no point in you pulling. You know what I mean? Like I just did it in a way, not being a dick, but did it in a way where my daughter felt like no matter what, I'm safe.
You're there. Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. And being a father, I feel that.
Yeah. No,
when your kids look up to you, and they start, they get to an age where, because I have a 16-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And so it's different dynamics, but it's just, when they know dad's there and you hear them tell other people, my dad's kind and my dad supports me, my dad's, it's a big deal.
Huge.
I had a great father. He's passed away, and so
I have a great father, still alive.
Same. Look at the see, but you see the correlation. Like my father is my hero. Isn't that amazing how that works out when you have a great father?
Yeah.
And it continues the trend of like, I need to like. People don't know this because a lot. I mean, more and more, I think it's kind of like out there because there's more podcasts where adult men are speaking about whatever. But generally, for a long time, people don't realize like how little we need to function. How little, because most of us are used to not getting any encouragement, no nice words, no get. You know what I mean? Like it's not there. But what they don't tell you is the love of your child is. I mean, and your wife. That is all you need, and you will stay motivated, true, and this forever. If your wife, this is for all the wives out there. I don't know if you have a female audience.
We do, yeah.
If you go to your boyfriend or husband, just unprovoked, and say, you know what, I just got to tell you, I was just thinking about it. I just really appreciate you. I just really appreciate all the things you do for me. I know sometimes I don't want to say it. I know you keep me safe. I just want to let you know I appreciate you. That took 10 seconds. That dude that you say it to will be living off of that for weeks.
Yep, 100%. And on that, I have to brag on my wife. I was walking into this podcast. This is stuff she sends me all the time. This is true. My wife, Olivia, love of my life, been together for 18 years. Hey, baby, you don't have to respond, but I was literally just calling to tell you that I'm proud of you and so thankful for you and the leader that you are. We appreciate you so much as a father and my husband. It's like that stuff is like, okay, I'll run through a brick wall. I'll take a bullet. I'll stay up for 4 days straight. I'll be in the snow and sleet and not even flinching because that is the ammunition that I need anyway to function. It means that much. I don't need too much beyond that. So you're absolutely right about that.
That was the most beautiful. I mean, the woman in my life is the exact same way, and it's kind of a new thing. I never really had that, and same thing. She's just the most thoughtful. She'll come as a leaf. I mean, she is so thoughtful. It's crazy, and it's because of that. Like she drives. I went through a divorce during COVID, like a lot of people.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It was the worst. But there will be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning. I don't want to get too political, but there has to be when the nation kind of like wakes up and realizes like, oh, we were like North Korea for 4 years. There has to be a reckoning. Otherwise, it will happen again. But with my current relationship, it's like she's so supportive and so traditional, so thoughtful. Like I feel like I can do anything, and so
that's the Ken father you need, man. That's it. I mean, if you have that partner who's going to be there supporting for you.
Yeah, my girlfriend texted me right before I came here. My phone's over there. but it was like, well, she does sweet things like she'll put marshmallows under my pillow at night because she's worried I'm gonna lose weight. She wants me to keep the dad bod,
Right.
stuff like that. And she was like, "Hey, remember eat 2,000 more calories today, you fat ass." Anyway, it's really nice.
That's beautiful.
Another Coke.
Beautiful. If you really want to show that you love her, you should get diabetes. I mean, that really will show the love.
So you can take care of me.
She's in the medical profession, yeah. So
Kevin,
I'm
dude,
good.
I love you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you so
I
much.
really
for
enjoyed it.
taking so much of your time. But yeah, this
Of
has
course.
really been like my favorite podcast. I just love catching up with you, man. And you know, if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out, call. Of course, I know you will, and you know, we really appreciate
And
it.
everyone, when we know where it's going to be and when, go see Killer Bee. Support.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Absolutely. And can I just say, it's like, you know, it's a different time because for the first time doing a podcast, I'm not worried about being canceled by something. And I haven't said anything too outrageous, but I'm not worried about it. I wonder why.
Yeah, no, they've given voices to crazy folks like us. So
Yeah.
you know, hopefully, you know, they'll continue on. Which apparently it is, because now the White House. I'm sorry, the White House press secretary has announced that there can be social media influencers, TikTokers, everyone in the meetings, in the briefings, which is the first time this has ever happened. So I mean, I think giving people a voice outside of the normal agenda-driven news media is going to be highly impactful as well.
Yeah.
1,000. It is. I know this is going to cut off, but I will say,